Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Contour Community Meeting. Today is August 17th, 2021, if you are here in the Americas, as we are right now. We're going to go through some status updates and potentially some discussion. Who wants to take the first couple of notes here?
Most of the updates are from me this week. Actually, I'll edit these notes in a minute and put the link to the PR. We're in the process of finalizing our update to our Gateway API design. It has entailed some pretty substantial changes for Contour. The two biggest of which will be the theme for the next couple of releases, is that we're going to be sort of deprecating the idea of having a YAML config file and moving Contour towards having a config CRD instead. And so it'll have all the same stuff that's in the config file right now, but it will be a CRD in Kubernetes instead. That will make the interaction with the operator and some of the stuff that happens in the next thing quite a bit easier. So the idea here is that what we're going to try and do is we're going to keep the config file around. It's obviously an extremely breaking change to remove that. So we will deprecate that and tell you that it's going to change, add in the support for the config CRD, and then give everyone like a while, a few releases to move to the config CRD. So the next big change that we need to do as part of that. Sorry, you got a question, Jonas?
Yeah, I was just wondering about the how deployment works then. So you deploy the config CRD first and then Contour, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's expected that I think we've got a little bit to figure out about the mechanics of how this all works, but that it should be also that Contour will, if you change the config CRD, then Contour will reconfigure itself on that basis.
So you'll have a listener of sorts.
Yeah.
For CRD changes. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And so the reason that we're doing that one is because it makes the next thing much easier. And so the next thing that we're doing is adding managed Envoy support. So managed Envoy is coming. So what this is that Contour will no longer only be a control plane for envoys that run somehow, and it doesn't care how. It will now have the capacity to actually create and manage the Envoy service for you. So in the initial cut, it will be that you create you or the operator or the Contour example YAMLs create an Envoy deployment or daemon set somewhere, and then you tell Contour about how that's configured through this config CRD, and then Contour will manage the service that you need to use to get that actually gets config to traffic to Envoy. So in the first cut, that will be the load balancer service that we currently create for Contour that actually gets the traffic from outside the cluster to the envoys. That's the big thing that changes. And the idea here is that we want to move towards being able to mess with a bunch of stuff about that in sort of a programmatic way. And it also means that the operator, currently this is handled by the operator, and so that code will sort of shift from the operator into the main controller of Contour and be available for non-operator users as well. This is all around the way that the Gateway API sort of expects gateways to be handled. And so, but it is going to deliver some value back to people who aren't using the Gateway API as well. So yeah, is that one clear, Jonas? Is there anything you can think of to ask there? No, cool. Okay. So speaking of the Gateway API, the next update on things. So that is a big change. I'm sorry. The other thing that I missed there actually is that I'm going to get to it later, but we're going to be changing our release. We're going to be lengthening our release cadence to quarterly. In the process of getting to that, we're going to cut 119 sometime in mid-September. Basically, once we have the config CRD changes ready, we will cut 119. So we're kind of moving to a slightly more feature-driven thing for the next couple of releases. And then once Manage Envoy is ready, we will release 120. That is planned to be released in sort of mid to late October, sometime around then, but it'll be when it's ready. Once we release that, then we're going to move to the quarterly release. So I'll get to the details of that in just a sec. To go back to the Gateway API for a minute, the other big change that's coming up is that Gateway API's V1 Alpha 2 revision is coming out very soon. It's a very big breaking change to the Gateway API. The Gateway API maintainers, one of which is me, are aiming to get all of the breaking changes done to the Gateway API in this version, so that controller maintainers, which is also me, and the rest of us, won't need to make big breaking changes anymore after this one. So I personally think that probably we will need to drop V1 Alpha 1 support when we build out the V1 Alpha 2 support, because there's quite a big difference between them. But we need to wait until we start doing that until we can make that call for sure. Okay, so yeah, short version there. V1 Alpha 2 is coming for the Gateway APIs, and it is it should come out hopefully, if we can make it happen. Ideally, that will come out in 1.19, which will be soon after the actual V1 Alpha 2 release is cut, and then we will be fully moved on to the current version of the Gateway APIs. For the Gateway API going forward, it's only going to be additive changes. So we should be able to make, we being the Gateway API maintainers, should be able to make any sort of small changes that we need to make before we need to go to beta to the V1 Alpha 2 API. And then with the goal being that we move the Gateway API to beta as soon as possible. And so that then we can have the beta API guarantees, and everyone can feel much more safe that things aren't going to massively change ever again. Okay. More talking from me. So yeah, let's talk release cadence. We are going to be changing Contour's release cadence to quarterly from the 120 release. So that's the one that, as I said, is sort of due out mid to late October. So after that, we will be going quarterly, so every 3 months. So we're going to go October, like January, late October, late January, late May, I think. Anyway, and then we'll sort of roll with those. It's going to be, quarter. The intent here is to make it so that you, the users of Contour, don't need to update quite so regularly. It will mean that the change set for each is bigger, but Contour is kind of starting to be a bit closer to feature complete. So there shouldn't be so many big breaking changes in each release anymore. We should be able to move more towards operational readiness and making Contour more stable. So we're hoping that this is about the right time to move to this thing. We are also going to be so as part of this, there's a bunch of stuff that we need to write up. Alex and I have been working on a document already that specifies a bunch of the details. But some of the things that we're going to answer in that document is like, how will it impact our support policy? Like, how many versions back do we support? What changes will make us issue a patch release for a quarterly Contour release? Obviously, right now, we only do security releases pretty much because we're only releasing once a month. But when we're releasing once every 3 months, that's different. What criteria will we have for backporting fixtures to previous versions? Obviously, that plays into like how many versions back we support and stuff like that. But when we recently had a vulnerability, that we have patched, a few users have sort of said to us, look, it'd be really nice to get this one backported because it's a pretty big problem. So, and we're going to do that in this case, but that sort of raised the question of when we have longer release windows, what are we going to do for that? And there's a couple of things there about how can we make keeping track of changes easier for Contour users. I think that with 3 month releases, we probably will go back to doing release candidate releases for Contour as well, so that distributors of Contour will have a chance to test what will be happening when a version of Contour comes out. And we also need to get better around keeping track of what changes are going to be in the new release. Right now, it's all a pretty manual process, but I'm going to be working on some stuff to clean that up a bit. And that should hopefully also make cutting the release itself actually easier and writing the change notes and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, Alex and I are going to work on getting official documentation about this merged into probably the Contour community repo late this week or early next week. So yeah, I think that kind of covers most of this. Jonas, as a fresh listener, do you have any questions?
Yeah. So, question regarding the reasoning behind this. So you said because Contour is beginning to be feature complete, you want more stable releases that we can, so our users don't have to upgrade quite as often. Support matrices and everything will change as well. I know one of the reasons why we did monthly releases was so we could ramp up on new features quickly, and we cut on date instead of on feature. Are we going to move away from that and instead cut on feature instead of on date?
I think we're going to aim to keep the quarterly releases as like a release train kind of model, and try and keep it that it's like whatever is ready when we're ready to cut the release, then that's what goes. Obviously, when it's a bit longer, you've got a bit more time to plan, so it's slightly easier to make it so that features make it into a specific release. That's the other thing that I'm hoping that we should be able to, with quarterly releases, we should be able to spend a bit of time at the start of the release to get an idea about what will be in the release and do a bit better job of making our roadmap more clear ahead of time. Yeah, but we kind of, obviously this is going to be new for the project. It's going to take us a little while to get better at that. But that's sort of, I think I know what I'm hoping, that we can get to a stage where we have a better explained roadmap, that we are able to keep more up to date, and we're able to commit more heavily to say this feature will be in this release. And this feature that you want, we can't fit it in this release, but it will be in the next release or the release after that. And so, and so that we can be better about that sort of thing. So, yeah, I think thanks, Alex, for posting the link to the doc. So that's the draft doc at the moment. We're going to finish that one out, formalize it, and get it merged in as a Markdown doc in the community repo, so that then it will be the official thing. I got to figure out how we can make it so that you can read that on the website as well. But mechanics. Yeah, so I think those are sort of the big changes. There's a lot of status updates this week. So yeah, those of you who are watching this on YouTube or catching up, thank you.
One more question regarding the releases here. So cutting the release, I gotta say, the Contour project has one of the best release notes I've ever seen. You're fantastic at maintaining the release notes and being very clear about what users need to do and what's important for Contour users. So when you talked about release notes and you talked about cutting the release here, you're looking at automating the release notes more, or what's the purpose there?
Basically, what I'd like to do is to have it be that when you're merging the PR, that we lift some ideas from other places like Envoy, like other open source projects, that when you merge your PR, part of the PR is a thing that describes what users have to do about your PR. So that then when it comes time to actually write the release notes, the person who is writing the release notes doesn't have to go back over 3 months worth of PRs, figure out how they work, figure out what you've got to do and that sort of stuff. So that stuff is done as we go, and rather than being like backloaded and being all on the shoulders of the release lead. And that, I mean, which is what happens at the moment. I mean, I think we're all the maintainers are pretty good at making sure that they sort of write the notes in a way that is useful for users and not just like one-liners and stuff. We try to make sure we explain what the features are, and I think that's one of the things that that make the release notes easier to consume. And I certainly don't want to change that. That's working. We want to end up with that. But what I want it to be is that the release lead doesn't need to spend like a full day or two writing the release notes at the end of it when it comes time to because right now, even with monthly releases, it takes like half a day to a day to write the release notes. And so that shouldn't be the case. So yeah, I'm hoping to take learnings from Upstream Cube, from other projects as to how they do that.
One thing I really like about the current release notes, though, are that because we used to have release blogs, but we did away with those because the release notes are so encompassing. I mean, you have pretty much everything in the release notes that you would have in a release blog. So it's very, very good. If we're starting to have RCs again, would we see something similar for the RCs, you think, or would that mostly be just smaller updates there?
I would actually like to see the RCs. The RC should be the drafts of the final release notes in my mind. So they should have, they should have the exact same details that are going to be in the final release notes, which gives people a chance to check that we're telling them to do the right thing and stuff like that, so that we can make sure that the directions actually do what they say they do. And then, but when it comes time to do the final release notes, we basically take what's in the RCs and drop it straight in. And I think that's the way to go. I don't think, and I'm hopeful that, as I said, that having the sort of changelog / user notes be part of the PR process means that should be relatively painless to do, even for the RCs. Obviously, that is the hope rather than the current state. So there's plenty to think about there, but that is definitely one of the big things on my plate coming up.
My only concern would be that we want the release notes for the GA to be that single source of truth, right? So yeah,
I think that we'll just need to be clear in the RCs that that these are draft release notes, because this is a draft, like a pre-release. Just have a little sort of
disclaimer
caveat at the top to say, hey, this is draft release notes. This is a pre-release. Please consult the final release when it's out for the real web release.
It's also shown in the GitHub UI for RCs. It says that this is a pre-release. It's marked orange or whatever it is. But yeah, making that a big bold statement up top saying this is a release candidate and these are draft notes, I think that definitely makes sense. Yeah.
So I'm definitely planning on doing something like that. Yes. Yeah, I think, and I really appreciate the comments, Jonas. I mean, I think that has been definitely one of the things that I have aimed for with the release notes since I've been tech lead, that if you go to the release notes, you should know everything you need, everything important you need to know about the release, and you shouldn't have to go and read the PRs to understand what you as a user need to do. You should just be able to look at the release notes, and that's it. That you should know everything you need to know about the release and what you need to do and how to do it. Ideally.
Yeah, 100%. I wanted to let you know as well, there are several other open source projects, both at VMware and outside of VMware, that are looking at the Contour release notes as what good looks like.
Okay, well,
so yeah,
I'll take that feather, put it in my cap. Thanks. We'll put it in all of our caps, but yeah. Yeah, cool. Thank you very much. That's really great feedback. Okay, so the last thing that I had in there was just a thing about the roadmap update. Alex and I recently pushed a roadmap update into the community repo. Just basically that updates pretty much what we have been talking about, that Gateway API as a focus, and some other things like that. I think that the current way that we manage that roadmap is okay, but could be better. And so that's one of the things that I'm sort of hoping that as we move to quarterly releases, we can be a bit more, we can have something a little bit more concrete than that. But that's all way up in the air, and I don't know what we're going to do there yet. Yeah, so thank you. Basically, down at the bottom there, we've got, these are the things that we're looking to do. Where I can, I've put in, where we can, we've put in issues to cover. The issue where we're discussing those things, so that if you are interested in that, you can go straight there and watch that issue. Yeah, I think that, as I said, it's reasonably, those are all our best effort guesses as to when those things will be done at the moment. Cool. So, yeah, sorry. Over to you guys. I've talked enough.
Yeah, I thought about trying to, nail down to a particular quarter. I don't think we should do monthly, but maybe a quarter. But I just think there's more, we give ourselves some more cushion with first half, second half, and hopefully we get external maintainers. More external maintainers, and with external maintainers, you just can't hold them to that same standard, right? In terms of delivering things punctually, they have their own commitments. So I think this is just sort of the roadmap is a general guideline, right? It's to get broad alignment. If you're thinking about should I be using Contour, and to get into specifics, we're always available to have those discussions on the community meetings or through some other forum. So it's just a way to get started.
Yeah, agreed. I think that as we move to quarterly releases, it should hopefully get a little easier to fill this out more accurately than just half. But I think that right now with the monthly things, what we've been finding is that we're so busy delivering things for the next release that there's not as much time to actually plan out what we will be delivering in a few releases. The cycle is so short that that there's not much time for planning. So that's one of the other things that we're hoping to get out of moving to a slightly longer cycle, is that we'll have more time for planning and thus more time for making sure that this is accurate and up to date.
Sounds good. I love seeing this. Thanks for updating the roadmap here. Makes it a lot easier to see what's happening.
Okay, those are all of the things that I had in the status updates. Just before we move on to talking about Kubecon, does anyone else have anything that we need to talk about before then? No? Okay, over to you, Jonas. Let's talk Kubecon.
Yeah, so we've talked about Kubecon a few times before, and as with everything, COVID is changing everything. So right now, I just want to see if the team here is interested in going there physically at all. So right now that would be Alex or Steve or Bill, because we're not allowing over the country, over the border travel. So I'm just wondering if anyone would be interested in going there physically, or if we should aim to do virtual presentations instead, just like we've done the past 2 times for Kubecon.
I will be attending EnvoyCon. I believe there's a service mesh the second day, and then Kubecon. I'm going to be attending entirely virtually, just based on what we've seen, and I still have unvaccinated youth in the extended household, so I don't see that as being practical to attend in person yet.
Yep, that definitely makes sense. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Steve.
Oh yeah, I also will not be traveling. I'll just be doing everything virtually.
Same for me. So I think we should do the virtual format that we had last time. We got pretty good reception, right? I think how many hundreds of attendees we had, but it did pretty well.
Yeah, we had a ton of attendees for both the session and the office hours. A lot of Q&A. So
was it 800 or I don't remember.
I don't have the numbers with me, but yeah, in total there were hundreds, which is fantastic. So okay, so let's aim for that. It's in mid-October, so we need to make sure that we have content for it. So it would be good to have something content feature complete essentially by late September, the latest. It would be good if we can have something to review by early September in a couple of weeks, so we can start working on that. So we do have the basic introduction, or essentially overview of Contour right now, what's happening with the project. So I think what you just went over here, the changes within the project, things that are moving towards next year and things like that. So talking about that would be good. And then I believe we have a deep dive session planned as well. I'm not, I need to verify that, but I believe we do have that. And then, no, sorry.
We only have one, right?
We only have one, yes, there is no deep dive session. Yeah, so only one, which is the overview session, so that's good. And then the office hours. So we'll do those virtually. Cool.
How do we get a deep dive session, Jonas? Can we sign up for one?
They didn't have that this time around. I think they just skipped it and gave everyone just one session.
Okay.
Yeah.
But even for even for graduated projects, only have one, or is that
No, so graduated projects get both, I believe. So I believe we have both for Harbor. Only the overview for Incubate.
I mean, I would think the incubated would need more airtime, not less, right?
Well, it's a reward, right, for doing the work.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it won't be an issue for that much longer, and we can get to graduated too.
Yay.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Okay, awesome. Another thing, so I wanted to reopen a thing that we had a while back, which was to pull in more adopters to have on the adopters list. So I'm going to be creating an issue. Question for you all, essentially. Let me find the issue here, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Oh. Here. So found this where Dapper, another open source project, they have a very descriptive issue. So we've had a similar issue before, saying, hey, if you're using Contour, please let us know, but it wasn't that like descriptive. Here they instead have, here, please fill out this information. And they got a bunch of people just fill in information there. So it would be really cool if we could do something similar for Contour. So if you're all okay with this, I can open up an issue. The question though is, do you want this as an issue or do you want it as a GitHub discussion? I don't think we're using GitHub discussions that much.
GitHub discussions are enabled, but we're not using them that much.
Yeah.
I think that
like this to be a discussion instead of an issue.
I mean, I think it doesn't really matter. I think the main advantage of discussions is that you can thread. So it would be nice to be able to sort of ask people, if people respond with like one of these filled out things, it'd be nice to sort of ask them about more details, or if they can say anything more, that sort of thing. That would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that is an argument to use discussions. But I mean, I think the key part is just that we get something.
I think so I would propose issue just because not everyone knows about discussions.
Yep.
I don't know if they're looking there, but this is the one we have right now. I linked it in chat.
Yeah.
I think the format looks good, other than some people might not want to share what country or their company.
Yeah, I can put together a draft of this and send out, and we can start there.
All right, so we're starting a new issue and abandoning.
Yeah, it would be a new issue. We'll close this one out because it doesn't really have a lot of traction. And then start a new one, and then message that out to the community, and see if we can get some more responses.
Yeah, and I think that having stuff that we can basically just lift and shift straight into the adopters file would be very good. Yeah, we can put, I mean, that way we can put VMware in there as an adopter, and hope, and OpenShift and Open Service Mesh as well.
I don't remember where they actually put that later, but yeah,
yeah.
There we go. So they have this status as well, and it's pretty neat. So you can do, we can do something like this as well if you want.
Yeah, that's really cool.
All right, so I'll get a draft of this, send it out on the Contour channel later.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yep, cool. That's going to make our life much easier when it comes time for our graduation discussion with the CNCF doc. Some of the feedback that we've got from talking to some of the talk members is like, the number one thing that they want to see is that people, for graduated projects, is that people should know about your project without needing to be told. Like, if you're interested in the area, you should be like, well, Contour is an option for sure. And I think we're definitely making great strides in that direction. Yeah, no, so we got to hit some of the other mechanical things, but as long as we can keep increasing contours visibility and making sure that we're hitting use cases and stuff, I don't think graduation is that far away. Okay, cool. So we've got 25 minutes left. So Steve K and Bill, do you want to do some issue and Alex, do you want to do some issue triage today, or since we're a smaller team, should we leave it until we have everyone available? I'm kind of more inclined to leave it until we have everyone available. Personally.
I'd be okay leaving it. I feel like there's enough going on right now that, you know, the queue is pretty full as far as reviews and everything.
My queue for the next 8 days at Envoy is rather full, and after that I can start looking at things.
Yeah, sounds good. I moved some stuff out of P2, P3. There's still a few issues left. I'm not sure. I left you some comments, Nick.
Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, I'll follow up on those comments and stuff. I think we can do most of that work async though.
Cool. I also created like a won't do column or deprioritize column.
Yep.
So I didn't want to throw those back into unprioritized, but they don't seem to be. There is an interesting one about, you know, adding a feature flag mechanism. I don't know how I feel about that, but
yeah,
take a look. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, cool. No worries. I will spend some time checking that today or tomorrow. Cool. So I think with that, we're pretty much done. One last call for anything else. Okay. Okay. Thanks very much for all the questions, Janice. I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate the feedback. That's really good to know.
Yeah. Take care, everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone.
See you later. Stay safe.